Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, taking out a super fun, super exciting, and for me, super interesting video for you guys today. That is because as of maybe a few hours ago, the Duke Nukem 3D voxel conversion was released by Dan Peterson, taking every single enemy and every single item and sprite in the game and converting it over to voxels. And honestly, even though it is the Duke Nukem 3D we all know, love, and remember, getting a completely different look at all the enemies, seeing them in full quasi 3D, absolutely a 10 out of 10. Before we get far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But obviously, if you watch my channel, you like video games, just means you have probably played Duke Nukem 3D at least once, if not 100 times. It's one of those games that basically everyone that grew up in the 90s played. It absolutely nailed it as far as sales are concerned, and even if Duke Nukem Forever was an absolute abysmal sequel to one of the best first-person shooter games of all time, we still have the original Duke Nukem 3D, and that's not too bad. But honestly, getting this entire thing in voxels is just a completely different vibe, and I absolutely love it. Not in this level right here, but you will see I use God mode in just a bit so I can get up closer to the enemies to give you a better look. And if you're not aware, voxels are somewhere between a polygon and a pixel without getting too technical on it, so it basically is a pseudo 3D looking game now. And that again is absolutely outstanding because it kind of brings us more into the modern era. But I absolutely love the mix in eDuke 32 between the voxels and the original background graphics. Kind of feels like somebody went in and actually modified the game to have full 3D polygonal models, but that's not exactly how things are being done here. Leave me a comment down below and do tell me, did you even know that Duke Nukem was getting a voxel conversion or not? Because I've known about this one for a while and I was absolutely stoked to check it out. But honestly, this is the type of thing I love about the retro gaming community. They go in and modify games that we've had versions of for 20-30 years now. There's so many different ways to play Duke Nukem 3D, but honestly, with these voxels, this might be my new favorite way to actually take a look at the game. Because it feels both like the original version you played back on DOS and also a completely new version, kind of mixing and matching the graphical elements. And it is one of those things, there's so many different ways you can modify a game, and I absolutely love that people are still dedicated to finding ways to bring new life into a game that honestly has been ridden down into the ground like a dead horse at this point in time. I don't say that in a negative way, I just mean that everyone has played Duke Nukem 3D, so you have to be pretty creative to try to figure out what would make somebody want to jump in for another playthrough, and honestly voxels definitely did that for me. And it is a very unique and interesting look, and voxels aren't new to gaming, whether from this era or even in the modern era. There's definitely some games out there that you probably played before that you didn't really realize use voxels, like No Man's Sky, or even in some of the instances 3D Dot Game Hero on the PlayStation 3. It has a very distinct look, and for something like Duke Nukem 3D, with the pixelated enemies, I think it really does make sense. And as we go into the Cycloid Emperor fight here, outside of getting stuck in him, not sure exactly how that ended up happening, you will see that he is made up completely of voxels and has a full 3D range of motion going on. Sure, it's going to be a little bit stilted because it still matches what the actual sprites would look like, but honestly it is a completely different vibe, and it is one that I think really does work for something like Duke Nukem 3D. Because again, this game has such an iconic look, you remember it from back in the day, so these voxel conversions absolutely still keep the character and charm from the original game, but just basically make it feel modern and fresh at the same time. And you'll see here with the cheerleaders, they do have a sense of depth, they do have a sense of 3D in the space, and that is something that definitely makes a difference, even if some of those butts there are definitely a little bit blocky, because voxels can't really make a curve too well. But all jokes aside, honestly, this is the type of thing, again, it's just so wild to see, especially those explosions from the rockets. Even the rockets in themselves are going to be made out of voxels now, as are every enemy and item in the game. And if you do want to check this one out, I did leave a link in the description below, and it does come with a readme file to explain exactly how to set it up, because you're going to need eDuke 32, you're going to need an original version of Duke Nukem 3D, and you're going to need the patch files as well, all mixed in. And honestly, Duke Nukem here is going to kick a field goal, but it's pretty short. I always thought they should have actually improved the distance on that in the game. But it's soundtrack sample one time, 45 seconds, and I'll be right back. mean, it sounds exactly like Duke Nukem should, because it is just, in fact, Duke Nukem, which the point to say is nothing about this version of the game has changed outside of it using voxels versus the sprites. It's going to be the exact same gameplay, the exact same music, the exact same levels, in the exact same order, unless you add new mods on top of it. I did not test that. I'm not sure how it would work with the overall voxels here, so your mileage may definitely vary. And if you are curious what a voxel technically is, I figured I'd wait for the back half of the video to try to explain it. Think of it this way: a pixel is just a 2D element, whether it's on your monitor, whether it's in a game on Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis. It really is just a 2D space being occupied. Now, a voxel is basically like a pixel, but it also has depth in its elements. That means that it can appear as a 3D object because it is a pixel with some actual information on the z-axis. So just think of it like that. It's not quite a polygon, but it's not quite a pixel in the 2D space either. It basically cohabitates both of those spaces like a Schrodinger's cat of actual artwork for Duke Nukem 3D. And you'll see here as all of these plates go by and every other item, they are going to be full 3D. And I do love that you can even shoot the pipe bomb on that little conveyor belt there. And that bottle of pills, you know which ones they are, 3D as well. And that really is the fun takeaway here. Especially with the lighting model, things are just so wild. They actually have a depth to them. They have a mass to them. They really do feel like they're sitting atop the environment versus just being pixels on sprites. They kind of feel like they're just superimposed over the image. Now, don't get me wrong, back in the day, the build engine did an incredible job of emulating a 3D environment, even if it really does all take place in a 2D space, and Duke Nukem 3D was one of the best looking games of that year of its release. But honestly today, especially if you use something like eDuke and you kind of up the resolution, you can really see where those sprites sit atop certain areas in the game, and it kind of can be incongruent with your eyes and what your mind would think it should see. And I think voxels is a really good way to kind of make this work. But again, I know this is going to be something that is subjective. You may think this looks absolutely incredible, you may think it looks terrible. And at this point in time, I am using God mode here just to let the enemies hang out on screen a little longer so you can get a closer look at them. Because kind of the funny thing is, even if all the enemies are made out of voxels, you can kind of notice the goal in Duke Nukem 3D or any first-person shooter is to obliterate the ever-loving hell out of everything in front of you. That way you can kind of just move on with the game and stay alive. So sometimes you don't actually want to look at what you're shooting at, you just want to shoot it and move on. And I would say I think my favorite voxel conversion has to be the rocket launcher's actual kind of fireball there. But I wanted to kite the Octobrains out here so you can actually get a look at them without that red lighting, and I love how they kind of switch over in the lighting model as they come out. Seeing these guys in the voxels, my favorite enemy in the game for sure. And honestly, eDuke 32, if you've never used that version, you just played it on DOSBox, definitely would be my recommended way to play the game as well. And just kind of taking a look at the textures here, everything in quote-unquote 3D, it is just such an interesting vibe, and it's one that I think definitely Duke Nukem benefits from. I'd love to see the same thing for a game like Blood and even Shadow Warrior. I think voxel conversions of these titles would be a fun time, and if they do exist and I just didn't know that, leave me a comment down below. But it's soundtrack sample 2 time, because why not? And I'll be right back. I mean, Duke Nukem 3D always had an iconic soundtrack, and it's great hearing it come out of eDuke 32. Now the question is, are voxels going to be enough to make you want to jump back in and play Duke Nukem 3D again? Honestly, I can't answer that for you. It's going to be dependent on your personality and whether or not you think it's time for another Duke Nukem 3D playthrough. But if it has been some years and you've been even entertaining taking a look at this game again, give the voxel version a try. And trust me, I'm sure the work that went into this was absolutely a metric crap ton. Converting all of the sprites over to voxels, it's not like there is an automated program there that's going to do everything for you. I'm sure there was a lot of hand art done here with those voxels, and I'm sure it took hundreds upon hundreds of hours to actually make this thing happen. And that's why I wanted to make a video on it today. Even if it isn't the biggest change to Duke Nukem 3D ever, it also feels like, pun very much intended, the biggest change to Duke Nukem 3D ever, because it feels both like the game I fell in love with back in the day on DOS, and it also feels like a completely new experience with those voxels at the same time. I don't know how to describe it. You just need to play the game, give it a shot for yourself, and see exactly what it's doing. But I'm going to use some cheats here to get into this room. I'll see you guys next time, and again, if you want to play this one, the link is in the description below. Bye bye.